This is not just a bad regulation. This is a breaking point. Because in just 3 races, Formula One has gone from the pinnacle of motorsport to something drivers are calling a disaster. Max Verstappen compared it to Mario Kart. Not as a joke, as a warning. Cars gaining speed like a power-up, then losing it instantly. Overtakes that don't depend on skill, but on who has battery and who doesn't. And here's the part that turns this into a full crisis. This isn't just about fairness. It's about safety. Because the exact scenario drivers feared already happened. A car slowing down unexpectedly. Another arriving over 40 kilometers per hour faster. And a crash at over 300 kilometers per hour. Predicted. Explained. Ignored. And now, undeniable. So this is the real question. When every driver on the grid agrees, when world champions, rookies, and race winners all say the same thing, that the rules are broken, what happens if the FIA still doesn't fix it? Because right now, this isn't just criticism anymore. This is a revolt. Subscribe now, because the detail everyone is missing is exactly why this problem is much bigger than it looks. It didn't start as a revolt. It started as disbelief. Because when the lights went out in Melbourne, drivers expected challenges, new systems, new behaviors, new limits to adapt to. That's normal. That's Formula One. But what they experienced instead was something completely different. Something they couldn't control. And that's the first crack in everything. Max Verstappen felt it immediately. Not in lap time. In behavior. The car would accelerate, then suddenly lose power. Not because of throttle input. Not because of grip. Because of energy, battery state, and more importantly, timing. Which meant something fundamental had changed. You were no longer racing the car ahead. You were racing a system. And that system didn't always respond the same way twice. That's why Verstappen called it Mario Kart. Because in that moment, skill felt secondary. And that idea spread fast. Charles Leclerc reached the same conclusion. Independently. He described it like a power boost. Sudden. Unfair. Temporary. You gain everything, then lose it just as quickly. Now here's where it becomes serious. Because when 2 completely different drivers arrive at the same conclusion, without coordination, that's not opinion. That's diagnosis. But the real turning point comes next. Carlos Sainz changes the entire tone. He doesn't talk about racing. He talks about consequences. He says the speed differences on straights will end in a crash. Not could. Will. And everything shifts in that moment. Because Formula One drivers don't speak like that lightly. They understand risk better than anyone. They live inside it. So when one of them speaks with certainty, you listen. Or at least, you're supposed to. But here's where the problem begins. Nothing changes. The FIA observes, analyzes, waits. And while they wait, the drivers keep experiencing the same thing. Lap after lap. Race after race. Unpredictable speed. Artificial overtakes. Moments where the car behaves in ways they cannot anticipate. Now Lando Norris adds something even more uncomfortable. He wins. And still criticizes the system. Says it doesn't feel right. Because the result didn't come purely from driving. Think about that. A driver winning a Formula One race and not feeling satisfied. That's not normal. That's a warning. Now Fernando Alonso delivers the most important insight of all. He doesn't focus on speed. He focuses on understanding. He says drivers no longer know why they're being overtaken. And that's the core of the problem. Because Formula One has always been about cause and effect. If someone is faster, you know why. Better line. Better braking. Better exit. But now, that clarity is gone. Replaced by something unpredictable. Something invisible. Something drivers cannot fully control. And once that happens, you don't just lose performance. You lose trust. So by the end of Melbourne, the pattern is already clear. Multiple drivers. Multiple teams. Same conclusion. This system is not stable. But what happens next is what turns that concern into something much bigger. China is where everything stops being a warning and starts becoming a problem no one can ignore. Because what felt strange in Melbourne now feels dangerous. The same patterns appear, but stronger, more aggressive, more visible. Long straights, heavy braking zones. Exactly the conditions where this system reveals its worst side. And suddenly, the illusion disappears. This isn't just about unusual racing. This is about instability. Max Verstappen doesn't joke anymore. No comparisons. No irony. He calls it what it is. A disaster. He says he can't attack. Can't defend. Can't even trust what the car will do from one moment to the next. And that's critical. Because Formula One is built on trust. Trust in the car. Trust in the behavior. Trust in the physics. Remove that, and you don't have racing anymore. You have uncertainty. Now Lando Norris pushes it further. And this is where the problem becomes impossible to hide. He says the racing is becoming abstract. Overtakes that look real, but aren't. Because they're not created by skill. They're created by energy differences, battery timing, moments the driver doesn't fully control. And that changes everything. Because Formula One has always been about one thing: the best driver, maximizing the car. But now, the car is deciding when it's fast, and when it isn't. Now add another layer. Esteban Ocon describes the most dangerous moment of all. Looking in the mirror, and suddenly seeing a car approaching, far faster than expected. No gradual closing. No time to prepare. Just instant pressure. And in that moment, you don't know what to do. Move aside. Hold your line. Commit to the corner. There's no time to decide. And that's where danger lives. Because at those speeds, a fraction of a second is everything. Now combine all of this. Unpredictable speed. Artificial overtakes. Drivers losing trust. Zero reaction time. And you get something Formula One cannot accept. A pattern. Because this isn't happening once. It's happening everywhere. Different cars. Different teams. Same problem. And once a pattern forms, the outcome becomes inevitable. By the end of China, everyone in the paddock understands it. This isn't about improving the show anymore. This is about preventing what comes next. And here's the part that changes everything. Even the drivers who benefit from the system start criticizing it. Because they know something the audience doesn't fully see yet. If it can help you, it can hurt you next. No one is safe. And that realization is what turns concern into urgency. But here's the problem. The FIA still doesn't act decisively. Small adjustments. Minor tweaks. Enough to show response. Not enough to remove the risk. And that hesitation is what transforms this entire situation into a countdown. Because every lap, every race, brings the system closer to its limit. And once that limit is reached, there are no more warnings left. Only consequences. Which means when Formula One arrives in Suzuka, the question is no longer if something will happen. It's when. And what happens there is exactly what everyone was trying to avoid. Suzuka was never just another race. It was the moment everything caught up. Because by the time the cars arrived in Japan, the warnings were no longer theories. They were expectations. Drivers didn't ask if something could happen. They were waiting for it. And that changes everything. Because when the entire grid shares the same fear, at the same time, you are no longer dealing with uncertainty. You are dealing with inevitability. The tension before the race was different. Heavier. More direct. Carlos Sainz didn't soften his message anymore. He made it clear. This wasn't just about performance. This was about what happens in race conditions. Full fuel. Tire degradation. Different battery states across the grid. More variables. More unpredictability. More risk. And then comes the detail that makes this impossible to ignore. A rookie driver, with everything to lose, says something no rookie is supposed to say. He calls the situation dangerous. Not difficult. Not complicated. Dangerous. And when a young driver, still trying to prove himself, uses that word, you know the situation has gone too far. Because rookies don't speak like that unless they feel it. Now the race begins. And from the very first laps, you can see it. Cars behaving normally, until suddenly, they don't. Speed building, then disappearing. Gaps opening, then collapsing. And every driver feels it. That uncertainty. That question in the back of their mind. When will it happen to me? When will the car ahead suddenly lose speed? When will someone appear behind me? With no time to react. Lap after lap, that tension builds. Because no one knows when the system will turn. And that's what makes Suzuka different. This isn't chaos. This is pressure building toward a single moment. One car enters a critical energy state. Harvest mode. Forced recovery. Speed drops instantly. No gradual warning. No predictable pattern. Just a sudden loss of pace in the worst possible place. On a straight. At maximum speed. Now another car approaches. Fully committed. Over 300 kilometers per hour. Everything calculated, based on normal behavior. But this is no longer normal. The gap closes too quickly. The situation compresses. Time disappears. Options disappear. And in that instant, every warning from Melbourne, every concern from China, becomes reality. The reaction is instinctive. But instinct isn't enough. Not at that speed. Not with that closing rate. The car is forced offline. Grip disappears. Control disappears. And then, impact. 50G. A number that changes everything. Because now, there is no argument left. No debate. No interpretation. Only proof. And proof does something nothing else can. It forces action. The reaction is instant. But more importantly, it's unified. Because the moment that car hit the wall, every driver knew exactly what it meant. This wasn't bad luck. This wasn't a mistake. This was confirmation. And that's why the silence after the crash doesn't last long. Carlos Sainz speaks first. Not with anger. With something much heavier. Regret. He says he wishes he had been wrong. Because being right means this can happen again. And that realization spreads instantly. Across every team. Across every driver. George Russell connects the dots immediately. Weeks of warnings. Weeks of discussions. And now, a direct consequence. This is no longer about racing. It's about responsibility. And then comes Verstappen. The moment everything escalates. No filters. No patience left. He asks the question that defines the entire crisis. What are they waiting for? Because now, there is nothing left to analyze. Nothing left to confirm. The accident already happened. Exactly as predicted. So what's the delay? And that question is what transforms frustration into revolt. Because now the drivers are no longer suggesting changes. They are demanding them. Immediately. No more waiting. No more gradual adjustments. Now. And here's where everything shifts. This is no longer individual criticism. This is collective pressure. Drivers from different teams. Different positions. Different interests. All saying the same thing. Fix it. Now. And when that happens in Formula 1, the balance of power changes. Because the sport can ignore one voice. It cannot ignore all of them at once. Now the pressure reaches the FIA. From every direction. Drivers demanding safety. Teams demanding clarity. Fans questioning credibility. And the media amplifying everything. Every word. Every clip. Every moment. This is no longer internal. This is global. And that's what puts the FIA in real trouble. Because now, every decision they make, or don't make, is being watched, analyzed, judged, in real time. So they respond. Carefully. Cautiously. They announce reviews, meetings, data analysis, future discussions. But here's the problem. That's not what the drivers want. They don't want discussions. They don't want timelines. They've already seen the outcome. They want action. And they want it before Miami. Because Miami changes everything again. Long straights. High speeds. Exactly the conditions that created the crash. And now there's no margin left. No room for another mistake. Because if something similar happens again, this doesn't stay a revolt. It becomes something much bigger. A complete breakdown of trust. Between the drivers and the system meant to protect them. And that's the real danger now. Not just what happens on track, but what happens if the drivers stop believing that the sport is still under control. Because once that belief disappears, everything else follows.